The other breaking story we're following, the U.S. Supreme Court has just said it will consider whether the House and a new New York prosecutor can subpoena President Trump's longtime accounting firm and banks for his financial records. CNN's Kara Scannell is working the story for us. Kara, I understand this means the president's financial records will stay private, at least for now.
Yes, Wolf, that's right. All of these subpoenas are now on hold until the Supreme Court takes up this case, and big developments there tonight. They're saying that they will hear these cases, the efforts by Donald Trump to block subpoenas for his financial records. That involves one case, which is a grand jury subpoena by prosecutors in Manhattan who are investigating the president and his company. They had subpoenaed his accounting firm seeking his tax returns. That case tees up big issues about presidential immunity. There are two other subpoenas that are also on hold right now. Those are from the Democrats in the House who had subpoenaed Donald Trump's accounting firm and his banks, Deutsche Bank and Capital One. That case sets up big separation of powers issues having to do with congressional oversight of the president. Now, these cases are two very important constitutional issues, and however the Supreme Court rules on this will have implications far beyond the Trump presidency. Wolf?
How long before we learn the U.S. Supreme Court's decision on these cases, and clearly could the ruling impact the 2020 election?
So the Supreme Court has set out a calendar for this. They're expecting to hear oral arguments in these cases in March. That means a decision is expected by June, right in the middle of the presidential contest. Wolf?
Interesting indeed. Potentially very, very significant. Kara Scannell, thank you for that report. Let's get some more on the breaking Supreme Court decision to hear the president's appeal. Our chief White House correspondent, Jim Acosta, is joining us right now. So what's the reaction? What are you picking up over there, Jim?
Yeah, Wolf, the president's outside legal team, they are welcoming this move by the Supreme Court. We have a statement from Jay Sekulow, the president's principal counsel outside the White House. It says, "We are pleased that the Supreme Court granted review of the president's three pending cases. These cases raise significant constitutional issues." And the statement goes on to say, "We look forward to presenting our written and oral arguments." Obviously, Wolf, the president's legal team wants to keep those financial records as tax returns under wraps. Those financial records, those tax returns are sort of like the holy grail, as you know, to the president's critics. They've been after those documents for some time. But President Trump, on another front, is ripping into House Democrats after the Judiciary Committee approved those two articles of impeachment earlier today, while the president is painting himself as the victim and claiming he still wants to hear from the whistleblower. Mr. Trump may be thinking twice about his hopes for a circus-like trial in the Senate. A source familiar with the discussions over here at the White House says the president is hearing out his lawyers who are advising him that a shorter trial is the way to go. As that source put it to me, Wolf, quote, "You just don't know what's going to erupt in a longer trial."
Just days away from an historic vote on impeachment in the House, President Trump acknowledged what is coming.
I think it's a horrible thing to be using the tool of impeachment, which is supposed to be used in an emergency.
The president and his team are already coordinating with Senate Republican leaders on the trial to come after next week's expected impeachment vote in the House. Mr. Trump sounded open to the idea pushed by most GOP senators of a shorter trial that limits the potential for bombshells, even as he mused about his preference to grill the whistleblower who exposed his alleged scheme with Ukraine to dredge up dirt on Joe Biden.
I'll do whatever I want. Look, we did nothing wrong. So I'll do long or short. I wouldn't mind a long process, because I'd like to see the whistleblower who's a fraud.
True to form, the president twisted the facts to claim his likely impeachment is already a political gift, arguing that his poll numbers are skyrocketing when they're really not.
My poll numbers, as you know, have gone through the roof.
Arriving at the White House, the president's personal attorney, Rudy Giuliani, who just wrapped up a trip to Ukraine that he's touting as beneficial to Mr. Trump. Giuliani told the Wall Street Journal that as he landed back in the U.S., Mr. Trump asked him, "What did you get?" "More than you can imagine," Giuliani responded.
Any way they can.
Giuliani told Trump-friendly Sinclair Television that the president still faces an attempted coup in the U.S. with zero evidence to back that up.
Who's leading the coup? The Democrats are.
And Democrats are using the FBI to remove Trump from office.
And the FBI and law enforcement has become intimidated by the press. They're afraid of the press.
You should listen.
There are few signs Republicans will defy the president in the Senate, where the GOP is in control. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell says he'll be deferring to the White House.
Again, I'm going to take my cues from the president's lawyers. But yes, if you know you have the votes, you can certainly make a case for making it shorter rather than longer, since it's such a weak case.
Democrats aren't sure about that one.
He shouldn't be worried about working with the president
and doing the president's bidding. That's not the role that the Senate plays.
Now, in light of the controversy over the president's dealings with Ukraine, the White House is now shrinking the number of officials who are listening into Mr. Trump's conversations with foreign leaders. The White House has done this before when other embarrassing revelations have emerged from these calls. No surprise they're doing it again. But that once again limits the number of administration officials who are keeping tabs on the president's behavior, his actions on these calls. That means fewer potential whistleblowers.